The ship UTS Red Sea leads the way into the unknown. Using the latest technologies developed with the miracle minerals now at use, and as part of the July 4th celebrations, it journeyed to another star on a 5-year mission to uncover the secrets of our universe and bring back its treasures. A tremendous success for sure. In other news, the first colonists left early this year to claim the red planet of Mars for the United Terran States. The colonists, 50,000 in number, were the first humans to establish a permanent settlement beyond our blue marble. It's expected in the coming years that many more such settlements will be established for humanity's diaspora. Humanity to war? Live alien vessels found in Menard Star, crisis or opportunity. Continued expansion outwards as New Eden grows up to 1 million population and plans to support a naval presence come to pass. Shipping lines set up the first extrasolar route, a surefire bet for the Freedom model.
Hello and welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. We're once again here with the next episode of Pax Americana Aurora 4X. We're getting right into it with the initial start of our Corvette assignments and also having a look at our new colony at New Eden. As the intro suggests, and I hope you guys have been enjoying the intro, we've got a lot coming our way. If you actually want to play along, the database is in the description, and if you do enjoy the content, please leave a comment, like, and subscribe, and let me know what you think of the new format. So what I'm doing now is we're going to be setting up fuel harvesters in these outlying systems to begin exploiting the local fuel reserve, so they'll be able to ship fuel from in-system at a much cheaper time-wise and fuel-wise to the local colonies. So to New Eden and to Horatio, we'll be able to ship the fuel that's actually in-system to those colonies, which will mean they'll be able to actually use them to not be a drain on Sol's fuel resources, while also extending our own fuel capability. And in other news, we're also setting up refueling stations and deep space tracking stations and continuing to outfit those colonies with everything they need to be able to support further garrisons. And that's why we have Freight Fleet 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. For example, I'm setting up Freight Fleet 5 to begin moving infrastructure to New Eden Colony to get that colony growing as much as it can. Interestingly, New Eden is in quite an elliptical orbit, as you can see here, which means that it suffers some really high temperatures on the periapsis, or closest point to the first star, and when it's away, it has quite cold temperatures. And in the middle, it has actually really habitable temperatures, which could be a real difficulty for potential terraforming. And that's kind of what I'm thinking about now with terraforming installations: is how are we going to terraform this? Because it's got everything it needs except for the atmosphere, at certain points in its orbit. If we can provide enough heat and cold, we could get to an equilibrium where it's more palatable on either side. But we may never be able to terraform the world just because of the big variance between the distance between of the stars. I'm also having a look at the asteroids. We have quite a few asteroids actually in the system. I was considering maybe we should do some orbital mining, though I have my own issues with the amount of micromanagement needed for that. And we are continuing through as we start incoming on the 14th of April 1982. And we have just going through various constructions, building mass drivers, cargo shuttle stations, refueling stations, ordnance transfer stations, these kind of things that are very, very important for these outlying colonies. And I was a bit annoyed at how slow some of the colonies were growing. Just purely off the fact that our civilian sector is not really that big, and we don't have too many actual colony ships of our own. Our colony ships are mainly made for initial frontier outposts and not so much for large hauling of civilian people around systems. But we do have the TMS Cyprus coming in as we start to grow New Eden, and Mercury and Mars and Luna are also growing at due haste as well. And we're finishing up the survey, or geological survey, of the system of 61 Cygni, and then we're also going to go ahead with the gravitational survey of the system. We begin loading up cargo installations, and we'll start to ship those over to New Eden. These will improve the rate at which our freighter fleets will be able to unload supplies, as well as for civilians. I also note how quickly we're actually mining through our resources on Earth, which is fine because we still have all that big stockpile. However, we're going to need to really start mining in another systems to start supplementing that. And I also note that the area in which we're harvesting the fuel, 61 Cygni A3, has a ton of moons very close by. Now, I was considering the idea, what if we put a military outpost there? Because in the event of enemies, it's quite a far distance from New Eden, and it would likely need its own military defense to ensure those very valuable fuel harvesters are not blown up sitting there. But we are moving those new fuel harvesters in, and there'll be 5 of them mining about 8 million liters of fuel on the gas giant, and then shipping those over to the New Eden colony every single year. Or setting up the what would this be? The 7th Infantry Division. We moved the 1st and 2nd Infantry Division to Horatio, and the 1st one to New Eden. We're going to need a lot more infantry divisions to really cover our bases. I want probably about 20 infantry divisions until I feel a bit comfortable with that. Of course, that's going to be a bit of a pain in terms of actually replacing them when we get new technology. But overall, I'm still pretty happy with having that many forces, because we're going to need divisions for pretty much every single major body, and then also for any kind of actual land assault or land engagement is going to be another consideration, of course. Though I'd want some better tech before we did any major engagement. We have the UTS Lake Erie being sent to explore Jump Point 1 in, I think it is, what, Lanad? Not Lanad, 61 Cygni. And you can see here our freight fleets and tugs moving resources to and from New Eden. The Pacific Ocean also being sent to explore another jump point. It was Lanad, I was correct. And we discovered a system of Beta Antilliae, relatively little in the system besides a few dwarf planets and a gas giant. Nothing that would be of concern for potential aliens. And so we continue incrementing forward. We discovered a system of YZ Ceti. There are more gas giants in the terrestrial world here, and we can see here there were about 7 systems discovered so far. Overall, this could be a potential gas, fuel generation. There's so many gas giants we've discovered already that I'm not really too concerned, and that's why we're not building any further jump stabilization. Just because I haven't seen anything yet that I really want to be working for. I also note that apparently we moved more mines to Mercury than I previously anticipated, so there's now 120 mines, which is more than they can actually support. I also make sure that all of our civilians are actually sending those resources over properly. And we finish up the UTS Loch Ness and the UTS Rubicon, both a lake and a river there. And those will be used for, there are 7th and 8th exploration ships, and those will be used for, again, continued exploration. Though they will be the last exploration ships, at least of this class, that we put into service, because I am going to have a moratorium on exploration, at least for a little while, around 10 systems. At least until we can get ourselves a bit more established with our colonies, just because I don't want to poke the sleeping bear of raiders. I also realize we're going to need some more tankers, because we don't have enough to transport the fuel that we're now going to be extracting from both Lalanid and 61 Cygni. And so again, we're setting those up correctly. And again, I'm still a bit annoyed at how slow the colony is taking to grow. More civilian mining operations continue to be established, and short-haul fuel transport group 3 arrives at the correct colony. We discover a system of Bernard's Star. Very interestingly, this system has a 2.0 colony cost auction world. So the standard procedure would be to send a probe to determine if there is alien life on the world. And so that's what we do. We set up a waypoint for that. However, I then realize, the Rubicon isn't loaded with the correct ammunition, the correct sensors. And so I send it home. I order up the construction of long-range deployable buoys, and those will be used. So I will order the Rubicon to head home, because if there are aliens here, I do not want to risk anything. I do not want to risk the potential for the Rubicon to be destroyed and all of its crew members killed. And that's why we use probes. We also really interestingly discover another jump point in Sol, and it's pretty extreme. I think we're up to 7 jump points now in the actual system, which is pretty crazy when you think about it. We have a lot of jump points in Sol, so Sol is a real highway. And here we go, setting up the next 5 fuel harvesters to go to Lalanid to provide the fuel supply for Horatio military base, which will hopefully be turning into a nice military base capable of projecting power and harvesting the fuel and minerals within the system, ensuring those are protected. The 2 Aberdeens finish up, the TMS Mons, TMS Novgorod. I continue to build more freighters because we're going to need them if we're going to continue to expand outwards. And both Mars, Luna, and Mercury are growing accordingly. We also start finishing up the training of the 8th Infantry Division. And if you guys are wanting to, feel free to leave suggestions for names or planetary names, nicknames for divisions or anything. If you guys want yourself or your ideas in the video in the series, let me know. I'm more than willing to put them in and get a little bit of variation in terms of naming. Got a lot of planets to name, yeah, just let me know. Again, civilians are actually really expanding hard in those those civilian mining complexes. They're actually doing really well for themselves because they've only been in game for about 5 years at this point. So, the Rubicon has now entered Bernard Star, and we have our sensor probe ready to go. I then decide, okay, we're going to move to location, get the long-range buoy ready to be deployed. Remember, it's a 2-stage design. It goes towards the target, and then we'll deploy a buoy at that target. And that buoy will have the EM and thermal passive sensors that will detect anything untoward. At a speed of 1,000 kilometers per second, it's pretty slow to reach the target, and so we will be waiting quite a bit of time. And so I kind of mess with the settings to see where we're going to be. 8 hours, and we're barely even there yet. But we are going to hopefully be able to reach waypoint number 2 here just fine. We reach the target, and we're going to deploy the longer range deployable buoy. And there we go. We find the Bernard Star aliens, and the amount of ships it's staggering. I designate them as hostile because I know what this is. This is precursors. These are a substantial threat, and the number of ships is terrifying. I've never seen this many naval vessels, this many naval ships for precursors. And in fact, at this point, I'm like, oh god. And I RPing a little bit, but also in my head, I'm like, okay, we need to start ordering up new military ships immediately. We've been slacking on that because I didn't want to overbuild, and I decided, okay, we're going to need more military vessels if we're going to ever deal with this. And so I believe I order another Adamant class carrier and some other vessels, but the Rubicon begins to leave, of course, before that happens. And I count the vessels, and I think we see 27 vessels. And I also decide we need to figure out the tonnage of these vessels, and I think the best thing for that is going to be a new probe. As you can see, I just started building those new ships. We're going to build 8 new military vessels immediately, and we begin the design of our sensor probe. So this is going to have an active sensor on it with a resolution of 1, and a small engine. It'll go 500 kilometers per second, and it is going to detect for us the tonnage and speed, hopefully, of those vessels. You know, it could be 30 very small vessels or 30 extremely large vessels, and we need to know what we're dealing with. So my plan is to build those new missiles, get research, then build them, and then send the Rubicon out again to go and have a look at Bernard Star and deploy them towards Bernard Star A2, the planet there. So yeah, very interesting that these are our first aliens. And remember, there's still those 3 non-player race aliens found elsewhere that we need to be aware of. Now, they're going to be quite a bit distant comparatively away. And lest you forget, Bernard Star is literally 1 system away from Sol. Not even 1 system, it is 1 jump point away from Sol. So it's on our front door, and we don't really have a way to deal with 30 alien ships of unknown capability. And then we see all the vessels again, and I'm like, oh my god, that is insanity. We even see a commercial ship. I'm like, what? So I then group the contacts, and you can see here there is way more than 27 ships at this point. I'm like, oh Jesus, my God, it's absurd. And we also see that they're using missiles here to destroy our buoy. And I can't help but like that must be 50 ships at this point. That's just ridiculous. The good thing is they won't come for Sol. The bad thing is I'm not exactly sure how we're going to beat that with our current naval strength. They have more ships by themselves than their entire naval capacity, even counting the corvettes probably at this point. And I don't really count corvettes for main duty fighting. The Oda having some refit and overhaul problems. It's gonna get sent back there. Luckily, it's just about to hit Earth, so even though it's having some malfunctions, it's going to limp itself back into port and get refitted over on Hislip Enterprises. It also finishes repairing itself, which is a good thing as well, considering it did actually have a malfunction of the jump drive. So yeah, I'm kind of thinking of what we're going to need to be doing to deal with this threat, and I come up with the idea, okay, we're going to probably need to design ourselves a bigger vessel. And that comes with the knowledge of what our sensor probes do for us coming up here, which will enable us to actually figure out what the size of the enemy vessels are. And let's just say they're not exactly small fries. The second support vessel, the Almathea, of the Adristea class, finishes up, and that's a very important ship. One of those ships can support an entire carrier strike group, so it's really important that we keep those ships on service. They're very valuable, and they cost a lot in terms of money to build, so they're not a cheap or very luxurious ship. They're something that's a necessity that we need to keep safe. Mercury's governor keeps getting reassigned all the time. I keep seeing that, which is kind of funny. We're nearly at 1 million people in both New Eden and Horatio, and Mars is nearly at 10 million people here in 1983 after the initial colonization in 1978. And we're about to finish up the research of the sensor probe, and I'm going to order up the construction of, I think, about 100 of them. Oh no, I'm going to build 10. Because I don't really envision that we'll need many more. And this sensor probe is just a single stage, just launch, and we finally uncover that the aliens on Mercury are the the Carnate Setebos, and they're a tech level 2 civilization, but only 18 installations, very sadly. So, not really much of a find on Mercury, however, it builds into the lore of we've discovering that aliens exist, and who knows, maybe they're connected to the aliens we found in Bernard's star. Continuing the harvesting out in 61 Cygni and Lalanid, and we're continuing our construction of many new ships coming off the line here, across the board, including a new carrier, 3 new frigates, 2 new destroyers, and multiple new corvettes. Fleet 4 completes its orders, and we're continuing to research ahead here. I believe I start to now set up the Rubicon, if I remember correctly, with the correct missiles, to now begin the exploration. Not the exploration, but the figuring out of what the hell is in Bernard's star, and how big of a threat it potentially can pose to us. But in the meantime, Loch Ness is going to do its job. Again, I'm not exploring any new systems just yet, even though I could, because we already have to deal with this current situation. I don't want to enable another situation to develop. Find a lot of fuel on Mercury, in fact, stored under a couch somewhere. And we also finish up construction of the Iridium, Obsidian, and Opal. 3 new short-range tankers, which will be able to ship fuel from our frontier fuel harvesters to the local system capital. And over here, we're going to set up the Rubicon ship template to have the correct missiles, which are going to be the Mark 1 sensor probe. So I put 10 of them in. I then order the Rubicon to replace its current ordnance with the new ordnance load, which it does. And then I order it. To go and head over to Bernard's star again, which of course is always a risk. However, I believe that we were able to get in the first time, so we should be able to get in the second time just fine. Mercury, again, interesting, got some construction factories and some maintenance facilities, and Horatio is now at 1 million population. UGS Rubicon finishes up, and we begin transporting the Rubicon over to Bernard Star, which will take some time before we can get in range to launch that sensor probe over. In the meantime, we continue our research of laser weapons. We've got 15 centimeter lasers finishing up. I'm going to go for 200 millimeter to 20 centimeter lasers, as I anticipate we'll be needing them. We finished up the Genoa and the Aberdeen, I think, was the next two vessels we just finished up construction of. And we're also, I had a look there, the alien artifacts we got. Oh, no, the Hiroshima, the Genoa and the Hiroshima. Rubicon is now in position. And it's got a very special task. Again, it's risking life and limb to get us information about the potential threat to the United Terran Nations. I have to move it forward to get within range of the fire control of the second planet of the system, where the alien threat is located. I make sure that it's within range, and then I prepare the missile, or the probe. So we're going to set up a waypoint directly on top of the planet, waypoint 3. And we are going to target it accordingly and move over the sensor probe and launch a probe toward the planet. We also need to cease fire. There we go. And we actually sent 2 probes by mistake. But, you know, redundancy, we'll call it that. And the probes are going in. Now, it's going to take quite a bit of time. It's actually going to take more than 5 days before they reach target. Just because of the sheer distance of about 300 million kilometers away, and because I don't want to risk detection by the enemy vessels. Sensor probes are nearing the target on the 27th of October, and we're getting very, very close. Again, these use active sensors, so they're going to be very visible, but they should be able to get within range before their anti-missile missiles hit us. Too quickly anyway. We detect and we see that there are 6 ships of 30,000 tons, or 12 ships of 30,000 tons. We see 50,000 tons of ground forces. We see multiple ships of 20,000 tons. Most ships weigh or have a volume above 20,000 tons. And this indeed is an extremely scary situation. And they destroy both of the buoys. And I order the Rubicon to immediately leave system and head back for base. I then have a look at the vessels, and as you can see here, 30,000 ton ships. And as a bit of roleplay and a bit of, oh crap, what we're going to do about it, I order that the carrier shipyard be upgraded to 30,000 tons, and I also design, with current technology, a next new ship class. And that is going to come out as the Akan class light carrier. I'm going to uprate it to 30,000 tons so it can carry 25 F-8A fighters and can carry 4 times the ammunition load on carrier at once. And with the purpose of which is to ensure that we have more ordnance to be able to deal with these potential threats. They have 12 30,000 ton ships, and we only have 3 20,000 ton ships. Most of our ships are half their total mass, and that is a real concern for us, considering. I play around with the design. I find that I want to try and fit 32 F-8A fighters, but I couldn't do it, so I decided, okay, we're going to have less fighters, but more missiles on the system. We ended up with 25 fighters, which gives us a total salvo size of 100 missiles being launched at once, size 4 missiles, and I'm pretty happy with that. So we're just going to wait for the shipyard to catch up, and then we'll start building some Akan class light carriers. I also check the range of their anti-missile missiles at the point at which our buoys actually exploded, and find that it's about 3 million kilometers in distance. And so and also based on the fact that we were able to launch from so far away, I felt confident in the fact that our carrier-based fleet would be potentially quite good at this kind of mission, considering the fact that we were able to launch without being detected about 300 million kilometers away, which is around the range of our fighters. We also continue sorting out the fuel supplies across the systems. Again, another kind of a big part of this episode is sorting out those fuel supplies, as they really will start getting the ball rolling. And I have looked at something and I see, oh, the temperature's changed quite significantly because of the rotation, not the rotation, but the orbit of the planet as it orbits around its star. It's actually quite similar to Earth in a lot of respects, with the argon, nitrogen, and oxygen atmosphere and the relative similar size, about 11,800 meters in diameter. It's just the issue of the orbit, meaning the temperature is out of whack. And that temperature does cause the colony cost to be the way it is, as well as obviously the fact that there is a little bit too little oxygen on the planet for human breathing, not enough pressure. But we continue on, and in 1983, 22nd of November, we set up our short-haul fuel transport group 4 to start moving fuel from Lalanid A2 to Horatio military base, and we also set up the equivalent on New Eden. And again, yeah, I mean, like the threat in Bernard Star is not something that will cause us to die or anything, but is definitely what we want to work towards in terms of clearing it out and let's say manifesting some destiny over those robotic hell slavers who dare encroach on our territory. It's right next to Sol. That's rightful United Terran Nations clay. And I will have no one else disagree with that. Luna reaches 10 million people, Mars nearly at 10 million people, and we've got good amount of colony growth across the board with New Eden at 1 million as well. We're going to continue the efforts to increase that as much as we can, as we need to get enough population to really get maintenance facilities working so that we can start supporting a military presence on our frontier colonies to ensure their safety against potential interlopers. So an abandoned mine, and we have some fuel issues. We also are checking New Eden colony, like, oh, that's probably actually enough for maintenance facilities at this point. About 900,000 available workers to go, and that's pretty good. And so I think shortly here I begin moving over maintenance facilities as we enter 1984. And we're still digging up stuff for Mercury, though nothing really too useful, nothing like a research lab or anything really expensive. And more civilian mining operations continue as we finish up exploitation of the Mercury ruins. We start loading up those maintenance facilities I talked about and moving them over to New Eden. We're going to move over 12 of the facilities, which are just enough for the working population. And then we'll ship in the maintenance supplies after. And then we will be sending over 5 corvettes for the initial garrison duty. And I also was considering the establishment and construction of surface-to-orbit weapons. Because we don't actually have any currently. However, that's going to be a long lead item in the near term, so can't really do that immediately. And so my priority is just to get naval ships in the system to be able to actually defend ourselves accordingly. The other issue with the newer carrier is obviously going to be the fact that we don't have a vessel, we don't have a jump tender that can actually support that, so that's going to be another problem. And again, more construction towards self-sustaining our colonies on the frontier, ordnance transfer stations, very important to do so. Our first maintenance facilities arrive at the colony, and with that, once we've got all of them there, I'm going to start shipping over with our supply vessels new maintenance supplies to begin ensuring our maintenance. Another thing that I want to aim for is have New Eden begin constructing its own construction facilities and start rapidly industrializing itself as a new capital, a system capital for 61 Cygni. Because there's a lot of valuable resources in the system and a lot of other places we could essentially colonize as well. And if it can start manufacturing that stuff in the system and then shipping those resources elsewhere, that will cut down tremendously on transport time, which will really speed up the pace at which we can start colonization. And that's about where we're going to end the episode off. If you guys have enjoyed, please like, comment, subscribe, really does help me out. I hope you guys are enjoying the new format, and I'll see you guys next time. Goodbye, and you guys have a great one.